You know about that. You don't know anything about that. What do I know about dancing? That's right. What do you know, huh? Dancing is my life. You don't know a single thing about dancing. Oh, no? Where'd you learn that?
That's right. Greetings, fellow armchair Imagineers. Tiki here, and I probably need to close my windows before my birds just make a one hell of a noise interruption. But we're back to cover the Elite 8 season 16 semifinals, part 1 for So You Want to Be an Imagineer. It's Purists versus Innovators. Give me 1 second while I close my windows. Still not entirely prepared, guys, but I think I'm doing a lot better than I was. Just forgot to close the windows before I go on air, not after I go on air. All right, how's everyone doing today? How's everyone doing? Just respond in the chat in a metaphorical context, just like, oh, we're doing great, Tiki, yay! But we're here to talk about the 8 projects of So You Want to Be an Imagineer Season 16's Elite 8. That is the part 1 of the semifinals. Very excited. And shoot, you know what? Now my phone's going to go off incessantly. I'm not having the best of luck with these solo podcasts, guys. I'm really not. I don't know. I feel like I should perform like a Don Bluthian Somewhere Out There theme song for Jacob, you know, like somewhere out there, Jacob will actually respond and I'll have a co-host again. But until then, you guys will just have to suffer through me. Yeah. What are you going to get? What are you going to do? All right. Okay, guys, so here's how this podcast is going to work. I've structured this to talk about the projects via the matchup. So what we had a tournament, a tournament style bracket of 8 people, which of course then face off up against each other. And those 8 people, out of the 4 matchups, the 4 people who won have now gone on to face each other in the semifinals, part 2. And we're going to take a look and see how they got to this point. So we're going to be taking a look at 4 matchups. What I'm going to be doing here, kind of the structure of this podcast for the hour or so that I'm going to be on air doing this, is I'm going to be talking about the projects individually, and then I'm going to be getting into my scores and generally just kind of talking about why one person won over the other one. Because I let me just say right now, these are 8 fantastic projects, like right out the gate. I mean, every single one of them really, really good. Even the ones like we're looking at right now, Star-Lord's Awesome Musical Adventure. When I first saw it, I was like, yeah, boy, you know, kind of like one of those Simpsons color tugs, you know, like, yeah. But no, I really like it. So we'll jump right into it with KMB. We're going to be talking about KMB and his Star-Lord's Awesome Musical Adventure. And KMB was paired up against D Hindley, who did the Grid Hotel. So we'll talk about KMB first. So Star-Lord's Awesome Musical Adventure. This is essentially an expansion of the concept of having a Star-Lord dance-off. And this is something I've actually already... I didn't technically see the show in person. I was in line for Mission Breakout in California Adventure when the show was going on. So I was like, hey, look, there's the show. I can't see it exactly, but yep, there it is. It's the show and it's happening. And I think I see Groot. So yeah, I've kind of got to experience that kind of secondhand as I waited for Mission Breakout. Mission Breakout, of course, fantastic ride, by the way. And anyways, so having just been in Epcot, I do have one qualm about this project. And this is kind of a personal thing. So my last day in the parks, so sad. My last day, it's hard to believe it was less than a week ago at this point. It was last Monday. My last day at the parks was a full Epcot day, right? And it was actually a day that they were doing a rock concert at the Food and Wine Festival stage in front of American Adventure. Let me just tell you that clashed with the World Showcase music and atmosphere. And the worst part about it was the fact that we had dinner reservations and we were seated outside. And instead of having this quiet dinner at Via Napoli, it was like, this would-be quiet dinner, except you've got this rock bass just blaring right next to you. So having said that, I know the music and atmosphere isn't quite as important in Future World as it is to World Showcase, though granted, guess they don't really care about World Showcase either, but that is a concern that I have, especially I am one of those people who has adopted the Innovations music, the do 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 do. I mean, it's such a part of the park atmosphere and experience as you're walking around, and it's I don't know, I'm kind of becoming fascinated by the would-be Epcot, where it's like Epcot is certainly moving in a different direction right now, and let me just be the first to say I'm one of the few people who really doesn't care for Frozen. It's a great ride. It doesn't belong in Epcot. I'll save my other thoughts for that in the Trip Report podcast, but regardless, so Star-Lord's Musical Adventure, that is one qualm that I have with it, is that it would cut out the sound systems. Having said that, the system that KMD has in place to cut it out, where Star-Lord's basically got this kind of like technologically advanced Walkman, yeah, that's very cool. That's very much in the realm of, kind of interesting technology. What I like about that, too, is that Star-Lord's Walkman then essentially becomes the musical instrument for the show, which I thought was a neat twist. And I'm actually kind of just realizing this now as I'm talking about it. That, yeah, Star-Lord's musical instrument, of course, would be his Walkman. That is where he gets his vibes, man. That's where he gets his mojo from. So, makes a lot of sense. All right. I feel like this project kind of speaks for itself, especially because there's stuff in the park that's very similar to it now. Let's move on to D Hindley, who did the Grid Hotel. And of course, this is an Innovators prompt versus a Purists prompt. Okay, the Grid Hotel is a very interesting proposal here. It's one of the more out of left field ones, I want to say. It's definitely doing for Tron what I feel like they're trying to do for Star Wars. It's an ambitious idea, but I do have a few issues with it as I take my drink of McDonald's brand Coca-Cola. Oh, God. Ooh, that's some good Coke. Enough with the drug innuendos. All right. So I guess my main issue with a Tron hotel, is would Disney really want to invest the currency to actually get something this immersive based in Tron up and running when look at the reality of the situation? I mean, I don't want to be cynical here, but I could just see a boardroom meeting where it's like, well, we could do Tron, or we could do a second Star Wars hotel. A lot of room in the galaxy, a lot of areas still left unexplored. I mean, Star Wars is a thing where it's like, even if you had a Westworld size theme park, you still probably couldn't fit it all in. So, I don't know. My other major thing here is that while the character itself does blend into Tron very well with the DJ character, DJ.exe, I'm assuming that's DJ.explorer. I don't know what exe means because I'm dumb. I failed coding twice, folks. This is the person you're talking to here. I failed a general web design class twice, like a basic one. So apologies for that. It's a cool show. I just don't really feel like he permeates through the entire resort the way I would maybe want to. And it's interesting because Space actually has a similar complaint about Disney Dad's project in the way that his character feels like a little bit of an afterthought to the resort. So I'll address that when I get to Disney Dad. I do think Disney Dad overall did a better job because this is more based on IP than character, and that's kind of my problem here. With the character, like I said, he does fit into Tron, but at the same time, I feel like it's just like, well, I can't do Daft Punk, so I might as well do the closest thing to Daft Punk, which is to create an original like DJ program character for Tron, which is fine. It's just let's kind of compare the two now. Let's kind of compare D Hindley's to Star-Lord's awesome musical adventure. I feel like D Hindley's is more adventurous and a little bit more ambitious, which, you know, you expect that to a certain extent, right? With an Innovators prompt versus a Purist prompt. At the same time, though, I feel like KMB really came out with exactly what I wanted from the prompt. He came out with, of course, a really good character. I like the twist of using the Walkman as the single musical instrument you can use. It just feels more in tone. So getting into scores here, we've got D Hindley. He got a creativity score of 8 out of 10 compared to KMB's 7.5 out of 10. Realism on D Hindley's part was a 9 out of 10 compared to a 10 out of 10. Presentation was both 8 out of 10s, and detail was 8.5 out of 10 for KMB compared to 8 out of 10 for D Hindley. So really, it was only a point difference between the two of them. They had 34 to 33. As I said, I definitely think that the big crux of it is that I feel like the character was more intertwined into KMB's project. And there is one project, one duo, of course, that I did not give grades for. That is Space and Pixie Princess. I'm going to build up to that, and I'm going to build up to exactly why I decided to do that. But in the meantime, let us go ahead and move on to our second duel. I'm kind of building up to the big controversial ones because I feel like Pi versus Disney Man and then Space versus Pixie were the two big ones, whereas KMB versus D Hindley, and now the next one we're going to get into, Ace Astro versus Disney Dad. These first two duels could have really gone either way. And whereas I feel like Space and Pi were both like kind of the big front runners throughout the whole season, really. So they're going to be kind of the ones that we're going to build up a little bit. And I want to get a full exit interview from Pi, by the way. Like, darn it, Pi. Like, darn it, Pi. You know, it's like, why do you have to be on spring break this week? This would be such a perfect time to have you on for the podcast. Anywho, let's get into it with Ace Astro's project. Ace Astro did Rolf's Piano and Italiano. This is definitely a really solid, it's a vanilla project, but it's like a nice gourmet French vanilla. You know what I mean? It's like, it's plain, but it's a very soothing, very comforting kind of like, yeah, that's some real creamy vanilla right there. That's now I want some ice cream. So here's the thing with both KMB and Ace, I did not exactly want them to use original, or I mean to use pre-established characters. I want them to come up with original characters. But since I was on my trip when they were proposing this stuff, and I actually really liked what they both came up with, I let it slide. And with that in mind, yeah, Rolf works so well. I like that it's, as Space said, I like that it's not an obvious musical act. It's not the Electric Mayhem. Hell, I would even say having a Miss Piggy lounge number in the same kind of vein as Sunny Eclipse. I feel like Miss Piggy would work good as kind of like a Sunny Eclipse avatar in that respect. But Rolf is classic Disney. I feel like Rolf is well, classic Muppets, I should say. I feel like Rolf could almost kind of be like an avatar, like a mascot of Purists versus Innovators on the Purist side of things. I don't necessarily who would be on the Innovator side of things. Maybe 80s Robot, or no, Honeydew, of course, Honeydew and Beaker would be on the Innovator side of things. Anyways, I digress. So yeah, let's talk about Muppet Courtyard for a minute. It's got Muppet Vision in it. Yeah. Muppet Vision, that's kind of showing its age, I must admit. And I will say, this might be sacrilege to some people watching. Having experienced Muppet Vision in Disney World, I really hate to say this, but yeah, it's not aged well, and I feel like unless they do a new film, it's kind of pointless to bring it back to California Adventure at this point. Like, it's been so long since it's been at California Adventure that if they did bring it back, I really don't see it, like, improving the actual visitorship for it or anything like that. And honestly, like, you know, the promotional stuff might be a little bit more important to the bottom line of the actual park. So I don't know, you know, that's one of those weird things. It's like Muppet Vision is one of the first Disney attractions I ever loved as a kid. It was one of the first things I ever did as a kid. It was the first thing I did in California Adventure. And then I park hopped over to Disneyland and went on the Tiki Room. And I mean, the rest is history. But, you know, for like a brief time when I was a kid, I went to California Adventure first, then went to Disneyland. So for a brief time, Muppet Vision was my jam before the Tiki Room. For a very, very, very brief time, from like the walk out of California Adventure and then down Main Street to the Tiki Room, I was like buzzing about Muppet Vision. But I digress. And then the Tiki Room happened. It's like, oh, okay, I know what my entire personality is going to be. But so yeah, it's funny how the Muppet Plaza has the worst Italian in the park, in the resort, and arguably the best Italian in the resort with Mama Melrose. So I would just literally just like scrap Pizza Rizzo and just have a big combined Mama Melrose and Pizza Rizzo building. Granted, I don't exactly know the geography of where they are. Like, I don't know if they're like across from each other because I didn't spend that much time in Muppet Courtyard. To tell you the truth, I don't even think I walked by Mama Melrose, but I digress. Now, in order to address one of the things with space, I kind of had to laugh at was the idea of the microphones with Rolf. Now, this is funny to me, especially because Club 33 was going to have that same thing, right? With the vulture who would like listen in on what you were ordering and everything. But I think that the idea of a cast member interacting with Rolf, that's probably the best alternative. This is another project that just kind of speaks for itself in a way. It's very simple. Everyone knows what Italian food is. Everyone knows who Rolf is. Everyone knows what kind of entertainment Rolf would offer up and what personality Rolf has. So with that in mind, let's move on to Disney Dad 3000. And he did Meet Tom and Two Taps. Tom and Two Taps. I love that name. At the Buena Vista Hotel and Spa. Now, this is the hotel that I keep comparing to the one in Dancing It's On. You know, the whole, well, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. Oh, wow, that's great. Gone with the Wind, my favorite movie. Folks, if you haven't seen Dancing It's On, just please see Dancing It's On. It's like the Room of dance movies. It's like the Room of bad movies. It's the Room. Just please see Dancing It's On. Anyways, I digress. So the Buena Vista Hotel is very much like the Hit Parade Hotel in Dancing It's On, in that the general idea is that it's like, oh wow, there's all these performers in the lobby. Here's the difference to me between Tommy Two Taps and the DJ.exe from D Hindley's project. I feel like Tommy Two Taps, I feel like he blends into the actual resort a little bit more, whereas the DJ feels like a side thing. I feel like Tommy Two Taps yeah, he is one of many entertainers in this resort, but at the same time, the reason why I gravitate to this project more than a Tron project is that it is an original hotel. It's not based on an IP. It's a very stately hotel. It's a very modest, but at the same time, it's modest in terms of theme, but it's ambitious in terms of amenities and in terms of grandeur to it. So it's got a nice mix of qualities going for it. And having just recently, of course, you know, toured some of the hotels on property, I didn't get to see as many as I wanted to. I wanted to get out to the Animal Kingdom Lodge. I wanted to get out to, I was going to call it Trader Sam's because that's all it is to me. But I wanted to get out to the Polynesian. But I did get to see the Swan. And really, that's about it. But I digress. Still, I like the idea of like a stately and elegant Disney hotel that has a lot of character to it. Oh man, if I had a little bit more energy, I'd like bust out a hipster Donald cameo right now. But Tiki, you've got all the character you could ever need right here. Anyways. Okay, so and yeah, like Space said, I love the realism of the TV right here that D Hindley put together, that Disney Dad put together, and I absolutely love just the idea of, even though it didn't come into fruition, I love what he was going to present, which was going to be just like a video tour of the resort. Disney Dad, please make that. Like, by all means, I still really want to see that. Hell, I'll even give you some bonus points if you put it together. I don't know exactly what for. Maybe I don't know. Don't quote me on the bonus points, but I still really want to see it. Okay, so let's see. Anything else I'm really missing from this project, detail wise? Yeah, like I said, I really like how elegant it is, and I do feel like Tommy Two Taps, in spite of not being the only entertainment act here, is very much kind of like a mascot entertainment act for the resort, whereas, like I said, with DJ.exe, I feel like DJ.exe is mostly just kind of like, yeah, you got this really cool Tron character, this really cool Tron hotel, and there's a DJ too, whereas this, it's like, yeah, there's this hotel, and Tommy Two Taps is like the main guy there. It's like your mind goes to Tommy Two Taps quicker in this hotel than I would feel like with Tron. There's so much more to Tron than just DJ.exe. I hope I'm making sense with this. Okay, so comparing Rolf's Piano and Italiano to Disney Dad's project, to the Buena Vista Hotel and Spa. It's very difficult because, once again, we have a Purist and an Innovator project. I mean, what are the odds that all four of these freaking matchups would have a Purist and an Innovator? But at the same time, this is where I have to lean a little bit more in the Purist direction. I'm sorry, in the Innovators direction here. Because I felt like the Rolf thing was, like I said, it was very much, it was a French vanilla. It was a nice, fancy vanilla, but it was still vanilla. And I like that Disney Dad took some risks. I felt a lot of sympathy for him that the project wasn't all that he wanted it to be with the video files being corrupted and everything. So at the end of the day, it was a very close. Let me actually check the scores on this. It was 34-35. Yeah. So once again, it's very close. Creativity, Disney Dad got a 9 out of 10 versus 8 out of 10. That's probably because of the original character versus the reused character. Realism, they both got a 10. Presentation, they both got an 8. And detail, they both got an 8. So yeah, that's really what it came down to, was I gave Creativity a 9 to Disney Dad versus Ace an 8. So that's where Ace lost it right there, was just the fact that Ace used a pre-existing character in a really good way. Disney Dad came up with his own pre-existing character. It's, well, guys, I need a co-host. Help me. Anyways. Okay, so let's move on to our next matchup. And this one I want to say is perhaps the most controversial. It's Pi versus Disneyman 1. And these are arguably the two best projects in the whole in the whole semifinals. I mean, I think that Pi and Disney Man just both really, really blew these projects out of the park. I'm proud of both of them. And as I said, Pi just steadfastly gets a 5th place spot for his positioning here. I mean, he blew everyone else who got eliminated kind of out of the water with how good this project is. And really, it's only it was really only the detail of Disney Man that knocked Pi out, because other than that, Pi really did have a stellar project. And Disney Man, I feel like just went a little bit above and beyond in the scoring department with detail. So with that in mind, I mean, Danny Spink and Chaplin's Big Break, this is another one of my favorites of the season. I think that Pi, in spite of being eliminated 2 rounds before the end, I think Pi is the star player of the season. I think his projects are going to go down as some of the best of the season, some of the definitive projects of the season. And I absolutely cannot wait to see him kick some ass in Sorcerer's Apprentice and see him come back with a vengeance in season 17, which I will be announcing the details of season 17 very soon here, guys. I'll be announcing, it's kind of going to be like Survivor, where I'll announce the winner of this season and then have, like, you know, be like Jeff Probst, like, all right, now what's the season going to be next time? What theme, what wacky theme are we going to do now? So, but yeah, what to say about Chaplin's Big Break that hasn't already been said? I mean, honestly, not much. I feel like this is another project that speaks for itself, even though it's not a very simple project. I just feel like the quality of it very much speaks for itself. So I love the comparison where it's basically like Hercules and Megara's kid. It's like, yeah, you know, you hear that. That makes a lot of sense. Pi, you might not like me doing this, but I'm going to go ahead and play a sample of Pi's singing here.
This is Danny, that's short for Danielle, so it's D-A-N-N-I, and she has moved to Hollywood to try and make it big.
I apologize. There's a little bit of chatter going on in the background too. There's not much I can do about that. I'm sorry. Here is Pi's singing. I'm not going to play it all. I'm going to play like a 30-second clip.
Start off by saying I am far from a professional singer and even farther from a professional songwriter. So sorry if this is a little rough, a lot of rough, but this should hopefully help give you an idea of what I'm going for, at least. At first glance, Danny might come across as sort of one note. She's just
I don't agree with that at all,
and peppy and spunky, go-get-em, determined attitude. And I guess for theme park entertainment, being kind of one note is okay. But this song I wrote is hopefully something that can help her be a bit more than that. If this was a movie, this would be the Part of Your World or Go Most Anywhere.
Ah, so the I Want song.
The emotional core of her character. See, she moved from a small town
I like
to
the
Hollywood
slideshow that Pi incorporates into this too.
And she doesn't regret doing that, but she is well aware of what it has cost her and what she misses back home, especially her love, the guy that she was hoping to eventually be reunited with and marry. So this is a song that she wrote for him, and it's one of the few, if not only, slow and sad songs she does. This is Wish for My Love by Danny Spink. Someday my name will be in lights. Someday my dreams will come true. Someday it will have been worth the fight, but until then I'm just here missing you. So
all right. Okay. Thanks for sticking it out, folks. Like I said, I give big applause to Pi for having the bravery to sing and to write all that out and everything like that. Very good. Pi, of course, has been sort of pushing the boundary this season in terms of presentation. It's been coming out with a lot of different ways to present his projects, from blogs to websites to press releases. And this is just the latest Pi intrigue and innovation here. And of course, one last thing to point out, I love the Chaplin piano, and I 100% agree with Space Mountain when he says it reminds him of the Carousel of Progress, the whole like, oh, those Wright brothers are working on a flying contraption. It'll never work. I love that old school Disney charm so much. Anyways, so yeah, Danny Spink, not a ton to say that hasn't already been said. I feel like this is kind of the star attraction of the whole thing. Let me tell you why it lost. It lost because of this asshole. Look at him. Just look at his smug face. He's like, that's right, I'm going to take the win away from Pi because I'm a cheeky, evil British person. And I'm also, I'm also slightly effeminate. Because I'm one of those Tim Curry villains who's not actually played by Tim Curry. And I'm also wearing a Freddy Krueger sweater. Wow, I got really deep there. But yeah, Clef, Royal Minstrel of Fantasyland, by 1 point. And like I said, it's the detail point. It's the detail point that won it for Disneyland. By 1 frickin' point. Detail for Pi was 9 out of 10. Detail for Disneyland was 10 out of 10. Other than that, their scores are virtually identical. Disneyman just went above and beyond with the detail here. And I really like how it just sort of, it fits so much into the Fantasyland aesthetic, especially into the Renaissance Fair vibe, because that's the thing. I feel like the Renaissance Fair Fantasyland is something that we've all kind of just abandoned, even though it is Walt's original vision for Fantasyland. So I feel like that is something we should embrace a little bit more than we do nowadays, is the whole idea of the, you know, the knights and the round table and all that good stuff. And I feel like Clef very much exemplifies that. I feel like he is very much in tune with that, and I like that about Clef. I do agree with Space that I do think there are some things that could have been trimmed. But you know what? At a certain point, the character was just so charming that I just didn't really care. And I'm usually kind of a stickler for script-based projects, but in this case, I'm like, you know what? This is so detailed and so it's very simple, and that is sort of a concern, is how simple it actually is. But darn it, it works. And also, I just realized I lied when I said that I lied when I said that all the matchups were Purists versus Innovator. This round is Purists versus Purist, so I apologize for that. But yeah, I feel like this is the matchup that's gotten the most coverage. I feel like I don't really have to talk all that much about it. You guys already kind of know exactly what went down here. As I keep saying, it was an incredibly close round. I really wish that both Disneyman and Pi would have been able to make the finals. And I'm not going to lie. I'm sure there were at least a couple people on the boards who thought I was a little bit biased for Pi, because me and him have become good buddies over the past few months podcasting and everything. But yeah, let the record show here that friendships do not matter. It's all about the numbers. It's all about the numbers, except when you have, when you have projects that are so similar to each other and so personally intertwined and so spiritually identical to each other that you really can't do anything numerically with it. Because yeah, Space and Pixie Princess have just they have this crazy science twin thing going on with their two projects. Space did an Epcot project, Pixie Princess did an Animal Kingdom hotel. Other than that, they're virtually identical to each other, which is crazy. Very similar characters, very similar in the way it ties into the Society of Explorers and Adventurers. I mean, just everything is kind of like, except for the park. And that's kind of the crazy thing too, is that it's all consistent. Like, I feel like Pixie Princesses fits within the confines of Animal Kingdom. However, this is where I'm going to kind of set it apart a little bit. I feel like Pixie Princess, the hotel that she did, yeah, it is connected to Animal Kingdom, but it doesn't necessarily have to be. Space's project is connected to Epcot. It's got to be connected to Epcot. If it's not connected to Epcot, then it's just going to seem weird. And I've said this before, I'll say it again. That's kind of the difference that sort of weighed me one way or another is the Epcot of it all, because we've seen Epcot hotels before. We've seen the idea of a hotel that's based around, essentially the idea of having another pavilion in Epcot Center, except this time, instead of it being a park, it's a hotel. You know what I mean? Like, we've seen that idea kind of play out before. It's not the first time that we've seen something like that kind of happen. So, in that vein, I feel like Pixie Princess was a little bit more original with just incorporating the sea stuff. Whereas, of course, Space, I feel like Space had sea in his proposal too, of course. And I do actually think that Space's character is a little bit more well refined than Pixie Princess's character. I just feel like the hotel that, I'd like to visit both these hotels. I really would. But I feel like all the sciencey stuff and just the way that the dialogue and the way that Pixie Princess's proposal is written, the style that it's written in, kind of the narrative point of view that it's written in, it really gives a sense that, yeah, this is like a broke college student who's really into science and who's creating kind of like a hotel that's almost sort of like Muppet style, built on a cheap but in a charming way. That to me is just like, it's a lot more interesting than the idea of just like, hey, this is a really nice Epcot hotel. You know what? It happens to have a Disney, a sea character who has an elaborate backstory in it. And I guess that's another thing. That's another thing that we really need to pinpoint and point out here is the fact that I feel like the personality of Pixie Princess, I feel like her personality, both in terms of how she wrote it out, but also in terms of just the personality of her actual character shining through, it was a lot more there than it was in Space's project. As I said, Space's project was very well done, and it's probably the more well-rounded project in terms of just writing up a hotel. You know what I mean? If this was just based around doing a hotel and the character part of it wasn't there, I would definitely be inclined to give it to Space, or at the very least to kind of chart this up numerically and see where it is. But at the end of the day, folks, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. This was a personal decision on my end, because Pixie Princess is someone who's really surprised me, and she's someone who kind of exemplifies the game in a way, and I really love having her in this cast, even though she came in late. And I feel like Space probably feels the exact same way I do about it. Space has been around the block. Space is going to come back. Space will be fine. I really want to see Pixie Princess get this push. And so at the end of the day, that was kind of where my decision weighed to not have the numerical scores. I really personally felt that Pixie Princess deserved to move on. She put the work in to move on. She steadily improved over the 3 or 4 projects that she's actually been involved in. Steady improvement from every project. That's the one thing that's really impressed me with her. Each project she's involved in, she goes above and beyond. She almost kind of like levels up in video game terminology. And that really, I needed to see that go forward. I really wanted to see that encouraged into the Final Four. And like I said, Space will be fine. Space is the most iconic person on the boards right now. Everyone loves Space in a good way. He's an amazing, helpful guy and an incredibly talented Imagineer, and, just a super friendly individual in general. So, at the end of the day, I really felt that, yeah, if I would have scored it up, maybe, I think it would have been close. It would have definitely been close. But I want to say maybe Space would have numerically gotten a little bit of an edge over Pixie Princess. However, for the sake of the spirit of the competition, I feel like Pixie Princess has earned this so much more. Not to say that Space's projects have been bad at all, but Space himself even admits that he's not exactly been on his A game for the last few rounds. He was definitely on his A game for the first half of the season. So that's really it, folks. That's kind of my rationale behind everything. And I hope that you've enjoyed this podcast. This has gone about 40 minutes, not quite as long as I was expecting it to go on, but as I said, when it's just me solo, it's a little bit harder to keep it going without getting worn out and without running out of stuff to say, without thinking that I'm, getting paranoid that I'm repeating myself or anything like that. Let me know if you'd like any more feedback. I might be able to give some more detailed written reviews or whatnot, but I feel like between my initial written reviews, Space's written reviews, and this feedback for this project is pretty on point. So yeah. Thanks for watching, folks. And in the meantime, don't forget, whenever you're in doubt,
I'll be the spark if you'll be the flame. Start a reaction that can't be contained. Balance your pH by sharing my base. I'll be your star if you'll be my space. 'Cause there is no distance that I wouldn't go. Through space-time and wormholes, my matter would flow to the edge of the universe. I'll be your G if you will be C, or I can be A if you will be T. If there's a mutation, I'll fix every base, working as your zinc finger nuclease. Just like an atom, don't rip us apart, unless you want a big boom in my heart.